Hello and welcome along. It's Andy, your host on this here podcast. And here we are, episode 15 of the Wedding Professionals podcast. And this week we're delving into the murky world of wedding planners, some of which you'll know I've got a checkered history with. Mostly because they're so far at their own backside, some of them, that let's not go there. But, you know, the event is more about them than it is the actual couple, and I really cannot stand that sort of attitude. So, God forbid that we should spoil their decor or move a cushion out of the way. But this week's chat is with Sharan Kandola, who runs Black Velvet events, and not of the same mould, I have to say. Worked with her several times and found her very, very accommodating and willing, not even just willing actually, just keen to make sure that everyone can do the best job they can. So sit back, enjoy, and let's have a chat with Sharan. So here we are, it's episode 15 of the Wedding Professionals podcast, and today I'm in the leafy suburbs, a beautiful, beautiful home with Sharan from Black Velvet Events. Hello Sharan, thank you for joining me. It is Sharan. Sharan's very English kind of pronunciation though, isn't it?
You can
all right, Sharan.
I get shazzers, I get all sorts, it's fine.
So you are Black Velvet Events. So
yes.
tell me what you do.
So Black Velvet Events is an events and wedding planning service. We do planning, we do coordination, and the aim is just to help clients plan whatever their event is. It could be an engagement, wedding, it could be a concert. I'm branching out now into where I'd like Black Velvet to go.
Yeah.
And the aim is basically for people to be able to actually enjoy what they're planning, as opposed to taking over and doing it for them. I see it as more of I'd like to advise and allow people to have that, to still have creativity and just help them create what their aim is, what their goal is, and if they've got a vision, to bring that to life. But I just believe that with Black Velvet, I wanted to do it so that people actually enjoyed the event, rather than they were stressed on the day and they were running around and you're thinking, why are we doing this? Why do we spend this much money? So that's why I started Black Velvet, was to kind of help people create and manage what their expectations are, and what their goal and vision was.
Okay. So these things don't just appear out of nowhere. So where did you kind of, let's rewind, X amount of years. Have you done anything else in the wedding industry before you started Black Velvet?
No. So my job was completely different prior to Black Velvet. I was an investment banker in London.
So many previous investment bankers in our trade.
I think there's a lot of us that were in finance.
Yeah.
And it came about that it was a change of location for me when I got married.
Okay.
And it was a cliche of, I'm a bride, I've planned my wedding, I'm now can be a wedding planner. And it did start off, but it was a case of, prior to that, I'd also, even though I was in investment banking, I also did events. I had a background in TV. I worked on, this is going old, half the clients don't know what these TV shows were, but CD UK.
Okay.
I used to work on shows like that back in the day.
Okay.
I had a passion, I wanted to become a TV presenter. That died very quickly. And then went into investment banking, it was a solid job. And then when I got married, I took the risk, and I thought, if sometimes you've literally got to take the risk. And I started the wedding planning service, and it's a slow start. Any business that you do, it's always a slow start, and it's building up the clientele. But it was based on what I found with when planning mine, is that you speak to suppliers and you get these proposals and you get these quotes, and they vary. Sometimes they varied. Back then, I'm talking about 10 years ago, I've been married for 9 now, but it was a case of proposals the price was so different. You didn't know what you were actually going to get for that price.
Okay.
But on a piece of paper, it all looked the same. A centerpiece, a candelabra, everything looked the same. You thought, well, what's the difference? But then the biggest reason I started this is because, it's about the families. It's about the moms and the dads who invest a lot of money to support their children in bringing these events to life, and they never got to enjoy it. And on my event, I'd didn't see, like, my parents weren't always on the dance floor. They didn't eat the food. You go to these food tastings to make sure everything's all, it's going to be great on the day. And then on the day, you don't even know if the food that was there was what you ordered.
Actually,
you've got no idea.
I've got to say, even at my own wedding, for weeks afterwards, everybody was saying to me, "Did you try the stuffed mushrooms?" And it was like, "No, I didn't even know we had stuffed mushrooms."
Exactly.
I can't remember eating anything at my own wedding, like 32 years wed now, and it's just like that was the big thing. I distinctly remember missing out on the stuffed mushrooms, and that's one of the main memories of my wedding. So the aim is then to let people relax and enjoy their event.
Like, it's like I said, we're not talking about hundreds, we're talking about thousands, if not tens of thousands. And when you look back after the wedding, what you have left is those photos and videos. And if you don't even have a photo with your parents, or you don't have a photo with that immediate family because they were busy running around, then you do have photos with, like, the extended family members, which is still meaningful, but it's not that photo you're going to put up on the wall or you're going to put in the photo frame. And it's the memories, and like I said, it's the investment. Weddings they're an investment in a sort of way, and that's what literally was. I just remember from mine, and not seeing my uncles helping behind the bar, making sure everything was going okay. It's just, unfortunately, it's one of those. And that's literally the best thing that's come out of that is the message I received from the parents or from the couples to say, thank you for allowing my parents to be a part of our wedding day, to dance with us and sit with us, as opposed to, they said they weren't stressed. They knew that I had everything in hand. And that's the best thing that's come out of this. Yeah.
So going back 9 years to when you got married, how has the landscape changed in terms of maybe the size of events or suppliers, professionalism, or just the whole shebang? How's it changed over the last 9 years?
So definitely numbers-wise, I had 700 at my wedding, and back then it was not norm, but you still had your 500-600, so you were still accommodating for a large number of guests.
Yeah.
And you found that there were the selected venues you could have. I got married in the Midlands, so at the time you had your Motorcycle Museum, Hilton Metropole, you had the larger halls. Now the numbers have reduced, and you have this, and you're able to approach smaller venues, and sometimes they're a bit more picturesque. You have grand halls, so that's changed. I remember when looking for venues for my own civil, I had a lot less numbers, and I had so many more choices, and so many more venues to choose from. In terms of suppliers, it was down to recommendation, which wasn't a bad thing, because it was recommendation. You knew that someone had tried and tested that supplier.
Yeah.
So you knew that they could be trusted. They were going to deliver on the day.
Yeah.
So sometimes having smaller choices isn't a bad thing. Now, with social media, it's widened it, which again isn't a bad thing, because you've now come across suppliers which you may not have heard of before, but can equally do a job and maybe be able to deliver something better and more suited to what you're looking for. However, you also now find, I think back then there was probably 4 or 5 decorators, and now there's
hundreds.
There's hundreds. And it's so confusing when you're looking at someone and effectively you look at this picture on social media and that they've put up, and it looks like the same as someone else, but you don't look at this a wider picture. What a picture is just shows you an image, but behind it is what's important. So I think the numbers obviously have reduced, but I think it's a case of the choices have widened so much now that sometimes there's too much choice,
it's too dazzling.
Clients get confused of which way to go.
So I think the choices are probably just too dazzling overall. There's too many people to choose from, and it's like, where on earth does someone start? So what's the first approach to you then? Is it from the couple? Is it from the parents? And what does that approach entail? Do they say, I've got 10 grand to spend, I've got 50 grand to spend, I've got 100,000 to spend, help me? Or how does that work?
So I get approach from both parents and even sometimes family members to say, I've got a niece getting married. Do you mind helping her? Just can you give her a call? We've heard about your service, or they've used me in the past. And the first thing that I always do ask is, what's the budget? Because it's not to say, oh, great, you've got so much more money that we can now go spend it. it's like I said, I try to live up to people's expectations and try to be realistic, as opposed to saying, yeah, don't worry, I can give you the Dorchester, I can give you the Savoy. But whereas in reality, no, I can't. I can give you, it's a case of the client will say to me how much, and I'll say, these are your options.
Yeah.
And it's not to try to put people's, to break people's hearts, or just to say, or kind of just make them, but I try to be realistic and say to you, this is what you're going to get, as opposed to, because at the end of the day, as I said, we're not talking about hundreds, we're talking about thousands and tens of thousands. And when you start going up, you end up overspending by 50,000. So the first approach is literally, the client will come to me and say, we've got so many events, we'd like help on this, maybe the pre-party and the wedding. Sharon, how do you get involved?
Yeah.
And we'll kind of break it all down and say, right, so firstly, no matter whatever your event is, I will be there. That's without a doubt. Even if it's a 100-person event, even if it's a 50-person event at your home, I believe that it's management is management. It's not a case of, oh, don't worry, on that day, you don't really need me. But that's be the first thing, is the client will come to me and say, we need you for this amount of events. And then it goes on. So if it's coordination, it'll be a case of the client will tell me, okay, we've planned this all the way, everything up to this point. And Sharon, we just want you now to kind of get in touch with the suppliers and you take over from there. And then when it's planning, it will be a case of, we've maybe have found a venue, we might have found the catering, and then they could say, Sharon, can you take over from there? Can you advise us on...
I was going to, sorry to cut across you. No, it was, my question really was, why do people need a planner though? Come on, sell yourself. Why do people need a planner at their wedding? I mean, I know why I would have a planner at a wedding, but you tell me.
For experience. I've been doing this now for 8 years, and I've had so much experience across the years, things that I've learned, things that I've come across, things that have gone wrong. I've met so many suppliers over the years, and I know what suppliers can deliver what you're looking for. So everyone obviously has a budget, and it just goes down to keeping to that budget. If it's a 50, 60, £500,000, whatever your budget is, my aim is to kind of keep within those costs, and I'll find the suppliers that fit your needs, as opposed to when you do it without having any knowledge of what costings are, you may reach out to suppliers that don't fit within the budget. And sometimes you feel pressured into increasing that budget. So obviously we can help save costings. For many clients, they've ended up saving more costings as opposed to what they paid me. So in a way, they kind of got me for free, but it was the experience and the knowledge that I could provide for their event, and just providing all those little elements that they may not have thought about, which should also be put into your costings. And instead, sometimes they just become an additional cost at the end. However, even in those final few days and the final few hours, you might turn around and say, Sharon, we now need, this is on more kind of the day part planning side of it.
Yeah.
We've now got 50 extra guests. We need to fit them in. Now, so that person who you've been talking to, had you not had a planner, all of a sudden has disappeared, and you've now just become a piece of paper for Dave to deal with. I'm there to make sure that's handled and it's taken care of, because in the morning, if there's a ceremony, for example, your family are involved in that ceremony. They're not there. Yeah. They can't be making those changes.
Have you had that sort of thing thrown at you at the very last minute where somebody kind of goes, oh yeah, we've got another 50 people coming now?
100%. Oh, it happens quite often.
Really?
My rule of thumb is you have a seating plan. I believe you have to have a seating plan, just because of the way costs work. Back in the day, food costs used to be £15, £20 a head. Okay. Now you're looking at from £50 to £70 a head sometimes.
Right.
And it's a case of adding those 50 people on, you're looking at £2,500.
Yeah.
And so I believe you have a seating plan. If you have 400 guests, you need 450 chairs, because 400 guests do not sit on 400 seats.
What?
On the basis, sorry, by that I mean that if, let's say, two families walk in, a family of 6 and a family of 4, and there's 2 tables, they don't think we'll sit on one table, we're going to split ourselves up.
Okay.
Then you have to fit all the other guests that walk in to fill those spaces.
Okay.
So I believe that in that respect, that's why I was kind of going with the seating plan, because that cost is kind of covered.
Right.
But with the planning, why you need a planner is because you have invested and contracted with all these suppliers to make sure that they're going to do everything you've asked them to do. And sometimes there might be that bit more that they want them to do. Everyone's capable of doing their jobs. And that's why I believe don't be in this industry if you're not capable. However, it's just managing and making sure that they've got the space and they've got the time to be able to create those jobs? Has an actual itinerary been put out in place where you've got time for empty room shots? Has an itinerary been put in place where you've got time for a photo shoot? None of that's going to happen, and no one's going to take that into consideration because everyone wants to do their own thing. Every supplier is managing their own time, as opposed to thinking, oh, right, they actually need to now have a photo shoot. We didn't think about that. We wanted them to walk in now for their entrance. We wanted to serve things. So it's making sure that everyone's actually aware of what's happening. Additionally to that, you can bring your visions to life. You may have ideas, but you just don't know how to approach them, what are the first steps to take. We'll introduce you to companies that will be able to help you bring that to life. Sometimes your DJ may be the one that be able to help with creating your tables as opposed to a decor company. We might be able to introduce you to prop companies that can help you build your room and put in additional furniture that might just make it different. Not just that, we're a constant. And for the planning part of it, why I think you need a planner is you need someone to be able to tell you and also give you advice on some suppliers that say that they'll be able to deliver things, but I just know from experience they won't because they don't have the staff, or they don't have the facilities, and they don't have the items that you need to create those visions. And that's one of the reasons. And also, like I said, to take the stress away. You've put your heart and soul and your money into these events, is to make sure that on that day you enjoy and you actually remember it.
Yeah.
Do you remember your wedding, Andy?
Not much of it, to be fair. Just the stuffed mushrooms. I didn't get the stuffed mushrooms. Damn it. Yeah. So, because it was 30 years ago and I'm old now. So.
Not at all. But no, I think planners are around now. People go, oh, but back in the day we didn't have planners, and it's true, we didn't have planners back in the day. Family did get involved, but costs have gone up so much, and what we have what's involved in our weddings now has increased. We used to have plastic back in the day, plastic plates. We now have crockery. It's just all those elements where it's just
really plastic plates.
We used to have plastic plates back in the day.
Really, the
food used to get served by the family. They used to create a train and the food would get passed along, and we're going. But that's how we used to serve 600, 700 guests back in the day, if not 1,000. Literally, we'd create trains and food would get. We never had waiters. Waiters is a fairly new thing. Like we're not fairly new, but yeah. So things have changed, but that's the thing. Everything's gone bigger.
Yeah.
You're not looking at just the key suppliers. You now have painters. You now have aerialists. You now have, so it's managing everyone, and that's what a planner does. Planning/coordination. That's what we do, is manage everyone to make sure that you have the event and the best day of your life.
I'm still astonished by the family making a train to serve food, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's brilliant. Right. My question really was, do you get involved in the selection of other suppliers? Yeah. So,
yes. So in terms of helping clients find, so obviously the coordination, majority of clients have already found their suppliers. But when it comes to the planning, yes. And that literally, the reason I ask about the budget is because from photography, let's say we're on the basis of looking for suppliers from photographers, can range from anywhere from 3,000 up to 15,000. So that's why I ask about budget, is to break it down into sections. So you're looking at your photography, your videography, your venue, your catering. They're like your decor. They're one of your 5 key or the biggest costs. So we kind of work out, let's say you said to me, I've got a budget of 50,000. That about 30 of that, if we'll go to those 5 suppliers, and then we kind of break it down from that and go, okay, this is who we can afford. However, then it will go down to the client. If you want to spend more, then we need more. Need more money. Yeah. But if you can't, that's fine. Let's work with that. Yeah. Rather than me going, oh, I know who you need. I want you to have X, Y, and Z, because that's only be beneficial for it's not even be beneficial for me. No. Because again, it's just a picture, it's an event. But for that client, I always think they now have to invest another 10,000. It's a lot of money. It is, yeah. So I do get involved in helping the client based on what their spend is and making it manageable for them. Right, so you must have a huge Excel database spreadsheet going on on your little tablet, walking with millions of entries of money here, money there, suppliers here, suppliers there. How does your brain actually tie all that lot together when it comes to, I don't know, how does that work? My brain couldn't do it. One, I'm very Excel savvy. But
Yeah.
secondly, I think it's a case of I know it sounds really silly, but it just does because I really enjoy this job.
Okay.
I like making it easy and breaking it down for people, and I'll break it down into 20 tabs if needed. And it's not just to make it more complicated, but it's just covering every little element of the event, which people don't think about, including, for example, the reason I do these Excel spreadsheets is just because, for example, when you have a marquee wedding, people think, oh, it's a marquee. You've got tables and chairs, you've got everything inside. And yeah, brilliant. We all know what we need to have a party. Tables, chairs, cutlery, crock, we all know that.
Yeah.
However, do you have toilets?
Yeah.
Do you have rain cover? Do you have rubbish collection? So that's what my job entails, is to make sure it's because everyone thinks about what's going on during the event, but what's happening before the event and what's happening after the event. Is there access close enough? That's step-free access for the suppliers to kind of bring their equipment on. Or do we need to take that into consideration? Is there ramp access if we need disabled access, sorry. So that's what my Excel sheet covers, is every little minute detail, as opposed to, yes, we have a decor, check.
Yeah.
It's covering what else is included. Do we have the right ceiling height? Do we need to turn the fire alarms off in the venues? So it's covering every little checklist where people don't ask these questions when they go to see a venue, but the venue doesn't tell them, because they're not expecting a fire breather to come in. They're not expecting a crane to come in. They may not have seen that before. Every event is different. So, and they only base it on the last event. So it's just, that's what my checklist entails. It's not your simple X, Y, and Z. Oh, venue check, cake check, caterer check. It is, again, with the cake.
Yeah.
How many tiers is it? Is it eggless? Are there allergies? What are the flavours? Would you like to take any home? There's a lot of other things on these Excel sheets.
My goodness.
And when it comes to suppliers, it's not even just down to, again, like your main suppliers. There's additional people in there of the champagne skirt or the painter. There's other suppliers now that you wouldn't find on if you can get general checklists, and they do cover the general things, but these ones, what you get with me is experience.
It's that attention to micro detailing. Yeah. Okie dokie, just breaking in halfway through-ish, just for the usual, please share the podcast message. I know I do it every single week and it's got to get tiring, but please, I beg of you, if you're enjoying what you're listening to and you're enjoying the Wedding Professionals podcast, then please do share it out on your socials, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, how many more are there? Twitter. Does anyone use Twitter anymore? I don't know. Anyway, please share it. Thank you very much, and let's get back to Sharon. And those home events can be, like you mentioned, the toilets there. It's just, if you've got 200 people.
They're the hardest ones, 100%. They're the hardest ones. Can someone have a portaloo?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a luxury to have a mobile toilet on site. So, it's covering, home events are probably the hardest because of access. And no one ever thinks about the access. They think, I've got side access. And I'm like, it's 1 metre wide.
Yes.
You want to get a food fan at the back.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
So it's making sure,
So do you have to lower people's expectations as well sometimes and kind of go, hold your horses? Because you were sort of mentioned that I could get you the Savoy, I could get you the Dorchester. Well, maybe I can't. And so do people come to you and sort of, because sometimes, and I have to say this, I walk into a venue and I think, this is ambition over budget right here, because the tables are crammed so tightly together, and it's probably less prevalent today, but it certainly was in the past an issue, particularly when you've got a venue full of tables, absolutely rammed with tables. Tables are rammed up to the side of the dance floor, and they've booked a crane, for instance, making it all about me, and there's no space for me to operate. So part of your job after that great big long ramble is part of your job, lowering people's expectations.
It is. Sometimes I am the bit of a baddie, where I had it a few years ago where the client said to me, we'd like to have our wedding in the garden. And I looked at the space, and it wasn't a small garden, but when they stated the number of people, it wasn't just saying I could fit, they had 100 guests. I said, you can easily fit 100 guests in your garden. That's not the problem. However, you then want to have a reception after that. Where would you like those 100 guests to go? Where would you, if it rains, we have no rain cover. as you want catering, we also need a catering tent in that. I'm always looking at the bigger picture as opposed to looking at the event space and looking at a room. And it's even like when people go, oh, we found a venue and it says it can cater 500. I'm like, no, it caters 500 without a dance floor. That dance floor, you need to take away at least 8 tables out of minimum.
Sure.
To then also fit your DJ in.
Yeah.
So you've now also all of a sudden got a venue that's 80 less. Example for yourself, like I said, when we worked two weeks ago, when we worked together at Ragley Hall.
Yeah.
I asked, that was with the Story Emotion, we asked, where would you like to put the crane? That email was sent 2 weeks prior, because that is also, it's a piece of furniture effectively. Yes, obviously you can move around. However, again, have you got the space to move around? Because effectively, when a client wants a crane, they want different angles. That's the point of the crane.
Yeah.
So it's making sure everyone's got that freedom of movement when a client does show me a space to say, yes, it's going to work. No, that's not going to work. You said you want a 30-foot screen, a wide screen. You haven't got the space. They need a metre behind the screen to actually access it.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like I said, I am the baddie because people see a piece of land or they see a room. But it's like anything when you go to buy a new home.
Yeah.
And everything looks big because it's empty rooms. And as soon as you put your furniture in, you're like, no, this doesn't fit.
That was a bit tiny.
No.
Yes, that coming back to the space, that job at Ragley a couple of weeks ago, you'd sort of made sure that there was plenty of space, actually, for me to operate. And again, this is not all about me, but for the other videographers and other suppliers, just to get people serving, for instance, there was space around the dance floor, and nobody, so frequently people spill off the dance floor anyway, and they're all over the place dancing, which is fine. Now, there are some planners. Shall I go here? Yes, I shall. There are some planners who, and one notable one I had last year, who felt that the presence of a camera crane was detrimental to his vision for the room and his plan for the room. And I felt like saying, fella, it's not your event, it's the couple's event. And if they've chosen to have a camera crane, that's because they want the angles that I'm supplying. And that's their choice. It's not for you to come along and say to the videographer that I was working for, no, you can't do that. Because I know there was somebody else using camera crane who was kicked out of the ceremony. It was just like, no, we can't have that camera crane in here because it spoils the look. Yeah. So what's your take on that sort of attitude from? What's your take on that sort of attitude? That's a difficult question, and I'm sorry to chuck it at you, but just from a selfish point of view, it's relevant for me. Like
I said, I see myself as I work for the client. Even though, yes, it's my event in regards to it's my management on the day, it's that client's vision and it's that client's money and it's that client's choice. So if that's what they want, as long as I've done my due diligence and I've done my homework beforehand to make sure it happens, and we can work together with everyone to make sure it looks exactly as the client will, how they're hoping it to look, they will know that beforehand. So even if, for example, whether it's the look of a crane or whether it's the look of wires, as long as the client is aware prior, and as long as they've signed it off, then that's how it's, unfortunately, that's going to how it's going to have to happen. What a
refreshing change. And please take note, some other planners, highfalutin people that I've very uncharitably dubbed planners cushion arrangers in the past, which is very unkind. But we all need to work together to make sure that the bride and groom get the day that they want and the video that they want, the imagery that they want. Other suppliers want the imagery, as everybody's sort of saying, oh, can you just give me some still shots out of here? And so we're all there to work together for the betterment of the couple, not for ourselves and our own egos, do you think?
100%. On the day itself, it's about the couple. It's not about us as individuals. We're paid there to do a job. And that's the job we have to do. It's not about what we want from it. Obviously, yes, if we can get some images so we can show future clients this is what we can deliver, 100%, because that's how we advertise ourselves. Yeah. However, but on the day, it's teamwork.
Yeah.
And that's I always say to every supplier there, I'm not there to tell you what to do. I'm there to help you so that I know you can deliver what you want to do, as opposed to me dictating to you what I'd like you to do. Like I said, it's not my event. It's I manage it, but this is whatever the client's names are, whoever the client is on the day, it's their event. It's their day.
Thank you.
Thank
you. It's not just in the Asian sector, actually. I did a church wedding, Church of England wedding, and the vicar wouldn't allow us to film from in front of the couple during the ceremony. So the shots were predominantly the back of the bride and groom's head and the vicar. So it's not just, it's just like, no, come on, man, it's not about you. But
it does happen. It's like I said, I think it's a case of, it can happen, like I said, in all religious settings anyway. They don't want certain things done a certain way. Some are flexible. Some aren't. Some you just have to kind of go with it.
And some are just little Hitlers.
As silly as it sounds, even like something like as simple as like the band bodger, like back in the day, like when you have the instrumentalists walking you in, and now some venues won't allow that. You've got to go to a certain point. So it's just unfortunate. Sometimes it's unfortunate based on where the.
So you need to be, not only for everything else, you need to be 100% aware of the venue's rules and regulations, and you can do this, you can't do that. Like Hindu ceremony, no, you can't have fire. You're going to have to do it over there. How on earth do you go about that?
Site visits and meetings beforehand, so the suppliers know, especially the venue managers, know exactly who I am. Because on the day, if I'm not going to run to the client to say, hold on a second, you've just booked sparks. They don't allow cold sparks in your venue. That's all signed off beforehand, so the venue know exactly what's entering
at the last minute.
Exactly, and what's entering their premises. Because if anything goes wrong, know what and if anyone gets hurt, it's on the venue's head as opposed to the suppliers going, well, they booked me. I'm coming in. I'm doing what I want. So I just do reiterate to all suppliers what's happening, who's coming in, whether big or small, even if it's the car hire, just let you know this wedding car hire person is going to come in. So they're aware, because it's affected their home that we kind of come into on that day. So it's just managing all that.
How do you find managing all us unruly suppliers who turn up and just kind of go, I'm going to do it this way, thanks. How do you? I mean, you're supremely nice and kind of just go, well, actually, if you just do that. So, but is it ever a challenge? Does anybody really challenge your patience when we turn up?
They do, and especially when they're late.
Okay.
Or they haven't got the wrong address. They didn't do their homework beforehand. They didn't work out their timings beforehand. Or they had another project and they thought they could make it work. And that's great. And yes, sometimes we do have to manage multiple events on a day. I'm not saying that. It's just more of a case of plan beforehand of what time you're going to get there, and just because if you were running late, another team should have been sent out to do your job. But it's even when I've had a venue, I don't know if it was a DJ or it was just a company that offered the dance floor on the day. I think it was just a company that did the dance floor, and they turned up to the complete different venue. And when I called them, it's because there was a park and a venue that were named the same, but the park itself was about an hour away, like a normal public park was an hour away from the actual venue. So they literally set up 3 minutes prior to the guests walking in. That's as when they finished. So, but do I get sorries? No. Do I get apologies? No. It's fine. You're not having to say sorry to me. The apology would come is if it completely ruined the wedding, or if the client is aware. Clients are never aware of anything that happens unless it's so detrimental to. We've lost a family. Well, I've lost family members on wedding days. They've gone missing somehow. I don't know how, but they do.
So you're sort of acting as a buffer between us and the bride and groom and the families and all that.
Exactly. They don't need to know what's going wrong unless, like I said, it's so detrimental that we have to stop their venue or. And like I said, I want to work with everyone, and sometimes also giving people a bit more space, they actually become a bit more creative. Whereas sometimes tell them, no, you are going to do that, they will only do that. Whereas if I say to someone, okay, you can do it, or you can play that extra track, or if you want to, do that, that's fine. And they become much more creative, and they could actually change the party for the better for the client, because the client might base what they want on a previous wedding. And their wedding would just be a copycat of that previous wedding. But sometimes when you give a bit of freedom, people become a lot more creative, and they'll do it. They go above and beyond. They take more photos, they play more tracks or variety of tracks. They film in different angles. they may bring out your starters, and obviously the food's the food, whatever you've agreed on the day, but they may provide extra food. So sometimes it's, like I said, it's all about working together. But yeah, unfortunately, I haven't had too many bad suppliers to work with. But again, when I speak to clients and I do go through the supplier list, I also know what's going to happen. I already know.
You know who's who to begin with.
Yeah.
Jas Johel made a very salient point when I was talking to him on the podcast, that somebody being late has such a domino effect down the line, or it can do, and it can finish up costing a huge amount of money, because 100%. If waiters have got to stay later, or food service has got to stay later, and then the party runs later, and then because it's late, the venue's got to stay open a bit longer. So keeping us all in line and keeping us reined in and doing stuff that we should when we should, I think, is probably uber important.
It is. The cost, I think, is such a big... Like, I always say I say this to every client, whatever your budget is, or however much your reception... Let's say your reception costs 60,000.
Yeah.
And it's 6 hours.
Yeah.
Divide it. It's 10,000 an hour.
Yeah.
That's how much you're spending. And then literally when they step back, they go, we didn't think about it like that, Sharon. Yeah. And I'm going, that's how you do need to think about it.
Yeah.
And that's why people do need to be on time, and why when you choose a venue, make sure you have the access.
Yeah.
It's great having the setup, but sometimes that setup might take a whole day beforehand, or it's going to take, if the access is 7 a.m. and your party's at 12 p.m, 5 hours isn't enough to get it all done. So you might need to pay for access the day before, if it's possible.
Yeah.
But some venues are really flexible at giving that access as well. So yeah, it works both ways.
Is your job fun?
I love my job.
Yeah.
People always look at me going...
No, that wasn't the question.
Oh, okay.
The question was...
Is my job fun? I would say it's fun it's fun when it's all going right. When it's going wrong, I think people look at me and go, Sharon, you look stressed. And sometimes I'm not stressed. It's just sometimes it's just my face. It's just my resting, like, without swearing. It's just my face. But it's fun because I make it fun.
Okay.
And I think, like anything, again, I suppose it's fun when you see suppliers on a weekly basis, and effectively they're your colleagues. They're like those where if you had a 9-to-5 job, that would be the people I'd got. We don't do Christmas parties, but that's who you would go out for drinks with. Sure. And it's fun in that respect, and you get to talk to suppliers, and it's nice in that way. But like I said, you've got to. I think with any job you do, if you don't enjoy it, it's not fun.
No, absolutely right. So in terms of working hours, obviously you're a working mum.
Yes.
So how are you sort of away all weekend, or have you got the weeks free, or how does your time go?
I think it was harder when the kids. I mean, they're not that old now anyway. They're still young, but I think it's a case of when you do have like school and nursery, that's when a lot of my work does get done. When they go to bed, I'm working from like 7 till midnight, if not longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sometimes my meetings and so forth will go on. We'll start at 7, and sometimes we don't end till 10, 11 at night. Sometimes the meetings start at 9. But it also goes down to client availability.
Okay, yeah.
If they've got 9-to-5 jobs, I can only speak to them when they're home and when they've eaten.
Yeah.
So sometimes it does work hand in hand.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate for family. Family support is the biggest that's helped me with this job.
Okay.
They help look after children. My husband's has got a 9-to-5, so he'll take over. So that's been a good balance for us.
Yeah.
But 100%. I'm away. Sometimes I'm away for weekends wise. I could be away from Friday to Sunday, and that's just part of it. But then I am with them Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
That's just how this job works, and we understand. I understand that, and they're really good with it as well. But no matter what, whenever they're awake and I'm home,
I think our business is a relationship killer. To be fair,
yeah.
I think you've got to have understanding family and partners and things to help you get along. And clearly, even today, I think your mum's here looking after children while we're talking. So thanks, Mum. Are you where you want to be within the industry, or have you got ambitions to, Black Velvet covering the entire world? In fact, have you done destination weddings?
Yes, we're working on a few destination weddings at the moment, which is quite exciting. So the planning is in process, so let's see what happens with them. At the same time, I also love, I helped out with a concert last year, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, you mentioned this at the kind of top of the show, like we're on radio. So you mentioned this earlier, doing concerts and stuff. So talk to me about those a little bit.
So someone approached me last year and said, would you like to help with as an artist? His name's Sharan Kandola. He's coming from Canada. He's going to do his concerts. And he said, would you like? And I met him at a wedding.
Okay.
And I was like, I would love to. I mean, so my dream job, apart from the TV presenting, was to be a tour manager.
Okay.
I love concerts. I'll go to concerts all day long. Coldplay, Beyonce. I go to them because I love the live atmosphere. I love live music.
Yeah.
But when I stand there, as well as obviously looking at the artist, I look around to see the team behind it, who managed that, who brought that together. Oh, there's a tour manager. Oh, okay, they've arranged. And that's been a passion. That's been my interest I don't know, that's me. I'll look around at the screens. I'll look at the lighting as opposed to just seeing, and I suppose that's the whole planning side of me to think.
I'll tell you,
who brought
no,
together.
it's like if you go to a wedding
Yeah.
as a guest, you're going to spend all your time not enjoying the ceremony because you're looking around thinking, I'd have done that better.
Oh no, I'm not that bad. But it's not about what I would have done better, or it more being like, oh, that would have been better. Have we changed that a little bit? That would have flowed. But it still works. Everyone's weddings still work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been I suppose that's my mind is like, even 5 years ago, you used to see men like kind of climbing the ladder to get to the top light at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
Now it's all mechanical.
Okay.
So that was my dream job, was to be a tour manager. So when I remember that moment of when Gunnar went on stage for the first time, and I think an emotions just kind of came across me because I was like, this is what I've always, and like the audience went crazy and it was amazing. But even on them, we had a technical hitch.
Really?
No one will ever know whatever happened.
No, good.
But it's dealing with it.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a case of like putting pressure on the person to be like, what's going wrong? Like it's having a level head and controlling it and managing it. The artist isn't to know anything that's happening.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't. It's his event. He should be relaxed.
Yeah.
Same as a client. A client is a client, no matter how big you are and whoever you are and what your day is.
Yeah.
I see everyone as a client.
Yeah.
But that's, again, I'd love to go into more music and more live music. And if I could do Coldplay one day, then yeah, I'll keep going. I'll keep going with it.
Oh, no, they're a bit dirgy, aren't they?
No,
Coldplay?
not at all. Not at all.
Sorry, Coldplay fans. Are there any? I don't know. So do you think you'd leave weddings behind for concerts? Probably in the blink of an eye, would you? You'd be gone.
I actually think I would, only because that was my dream.
Yeah.
But I still do enjoy the magic of a wedding.
Yeah.
And I enjoy, like I said, the best thing is when the families come up to me and say, thank you for allowing us to enjoy this event. And again, like I said, that's why I started Black Velvet, was to help. Even just on a complete side note, I think it's parents that have become ill over planning their children's weddings. And that's been sometimes the hardest thing to watch. And I don't think people and suppliers realise that. And that's like, with my job, I really get involved in your family lives.
Yeah.
I'll hear about everything that's going on. And I know people's parents that have suffered mental health from planning the weddings because they found it that stressful. And I've seen it a lot, which people will never know. But suppliers never see that. They kind of come on the day, they do their job. And yes, they've spoken to clients beforehand to agree what's been done.
Sure.
But I really get involved in families. I'm so fortunate that to this day I'm still friends with the families, and they'll ask about my kids. How are you doing? Oh, you've got children, and it's really nice to see you. And that's a blessing. But yeah, that was probably one of the things I remember when I first started, of how ill parents get, and also financially, of how much money.
It's a huge amount of money.
It's a huge amount of money. And people go, sometimes the worst bit in the last 2 weeks is when a supplier goes, oh, you want that? Oh, we didn't know that. That's an extra $1,000. And you're at this point where you're thinking, okay, what do I do? If I don't do that, they're not going to do this. I'm going to have to spend. Sometimes clients end up spending an extra 10 grand in the final 2 weeks, which they didn't realise they were going to need to spend. Sometimes though, it's because if I'm doing the coordination, I didn't know what was happening, and they hadn't covered those, and suppliers hadn't told them about it either.
Yeah.
And that pressure on that family member who's already gone over budget is sometimes the hardest thing. And they'll say, Sharon, look, we need to do it that way. And I go, we'll do it that way. We'll make it work no matter what.
Yeah.
I'm a people's person, and like I said, it's not about me saying, oh, look at my event, look what I created. I really do get involved with the families, and like I said, I'm fortunate that I'm friends with the families after, and that they still see me. And I'm also fortunate I don't really post much on social media, and that's probably my little downfall on that. I've got so many events to post, but my work's been through recommendation and word of mouth. And I get so much work via recommendation. And like I said, kind of going back to when you said of what's changed, or the landscape's changed from 9 years ago, is that was the best thing for us, is we booked suppliers based on recommendation.
Yeah.
And that's how that's how I like Black Velvet, is because it's based on recommendation and people's own personal experiences.
Rather than a flashy picture on Instagram.
Yeah, and obviously, again, like I said, you do need to showcase your work. That is that is how we do showcase work, is on social media. But sometimes people go, you don't post, and sometimes I'm like, that post would be a picture of me, because when you invest in Black Velvet, you're investing in my experience, my time, my management, my skills, as opposed to, I can't give you a candelabra. I can make you one, I can buy you one. But that is Black Velvet, is me personally. And that's, like I said, I'm there at every event because,
Fantastic. So nobody ever really mentored you into the business. You just got off your backside and went, you know what, I want to do this.
I want to do it. And like I said, I've had some good support off suppliers in the industry from the get-go, and even to this day, where they'll say, you need Sharan.
Yeah.
We know someone
that's nice,
yeah. And I've done some of the industries, their own weddings as well. Yeah. And they said, Sharan, will you help us on the event? And I will.
Yeah.
And it's lovely. It's lovely, like I said, to help and kind of just,
Yeah. One of my sort of go-to questions of my selection of question cards is always, when did you think you'd actually sort of made it? And I'm guessing that concert that you were talking about just now would be the moment where you stood maybe at the side of the stage and thought, here I am, I've done it.
For me, that was like I said, that was a childhood dream. And that's where that one ticked the box. I think for weddings, they all tick a box in a different way. Yeah. And it's not about how big a wedding is or how big the artist is that they had at their wedding. And sometimes there are some big artists at these weddings.
Yeah.
But to me, that's an artist, and he's or she's in their own right. That's their. It's not about like, oh, I had so and so at my wedding. That like I'm amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said, as long as the client's happy, then
that's a different thing. Isn't it? So how often do people come to you and say, hey, I'd like an enchanted garden wedding. Here's 50 grand. Go away and sort it out.
Quite often.
Oh, okay.
Quite often. Enchanted is very popular.
Yeah.
But it's a case, I think, again, it goes down to 50 grand is also, depends on what you want as enchanted.
Yeah,
what does enchanted mean?
Yeah.
Does it mean some trees on the tables? Does it mean, are we talking about flowers?
Yeah.
In terms of like visions and what then clients ask for me, they do ask for, you know what the base I always say to me, can you go on Pinterest and give some ideas?
Oh, okay.
And go select images that you like and select ideas of those. So what do you like from that image? Is it that you picked up that it had a table runner going along it? Or was it the fact that the centerpieces were taller?
Yeah.
So I always use Pinterest as a really good base. So people, to actually gauge what people are actually picking up on.
Yeah.
Because enchanted could mean, do you want just complete green decor?
Yeah.
You can now have white trees, pink. They're very vague sometimes, these words are, it covers a lot of
it does.
It covers a lot of things. So, but in terms of visions, I always say, give me a template and then I'll speak to the right supplier for you.
Yeah.
Every decorator is talented in their own right and of what they can offer. You have decorators who will create different themes, and I may be able to go to them and go, your theme is going to match my client perfectly.
Yeah.
Let's work together. Or it might be someone who'd be like, you'll pick up elements from different things and they'll create a centerpiece for you. You'll be the right. However, it's just making sure that supplier will fit into that budget. And that's probably the hardest thing.
And when it's all said and done, and we've got we've been running around going, Sharan, we want an empty room for room shots and blah, 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 blah. And so for a moment, probably you can just stand there and look around while we're doing the shots, and the whole picture is just laid out and the creation has come true. Do you sit there and give yourself a little pat on the back?
I don't think I have a chance. It's more of a case of, I think it's, I do. Sometimes the funny thing is when clients have told me what they want, I actually can already vision it. And the room does turn out exactly how I had in mind. Whereas the client's like, I couldn't see it. Oh, Sharan, that's really good. Like, wow, like what you've done.
Okay.
But I already got it in my head, and I don't know whether it's because obviously we've seen so many weddings. So when someone tells you something, you're like, I know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it looks better. Like there might be elements I'm like, wow, that actually looks better than what I had imagined.
Yeah.
And like I said, also when you give a supplier sometimes like creativity and free flow,
leeway.
They will go and put things in thinking, you know what, it looks better because we put that in.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I'm not always restricted on what people can do.
No.
I think everyone should have their own free flow and creativity in their own right.
Yeah. So presumably inspiration can come from the suppliers themselves as well. Then they can come to you and go, well, actually, you thought that was good. What about this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same with like DJ's decor. Here it is. They'll literally, like, the caterer might come and serve it in different bowls, thinking, you know what, Sharon, you said to me there's going to be a Moroccan theme, so we've got these kind of like tangine or like, do you know that type of the dishes to fit in. Or the DJ might be like, you know what, Sharon, we've gone with these extra additional lights that are going to do X, Y, and Z for you now, whereas prior to that, you literally just had these standard static lights because they're like, let's change this up, let's change the room. So, like I said, creativity is it's that's why I hope everyone kind of like what they're in the field that they're in is because we're all quite creative in what we can do. So I believe in that, letting everyone kind of have a bit of kind of free flow, I suppose, to kind of create what they want to do.
And what sort of time are you get, like at Ragley, I think we finished, 11 o'clock, midnight, something like that. What sort of time are you getting home after that sort of event?
So that night I got home at 3:30. Wow. And I started that journey in the morning. Oh, gosh. I remember you got there. I mean, Andy, you were early. You were always on time. But I got there at 9, so I would have left about 8.
Yeah.
So left at 8 and I got home at 3.
Yeah.
Some events are full 24 hours, 23 hours for me. Some events are 20. I'm the first person there because it goes, and I've had people go, why are you there so early? And I'm going, because if I walked into the room and you put somewhere, so like put the bar in, I can't move that bar if I come an hour after.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
So I'm there from the get-go to make sure every little piece of jigsaw is slotting into place, as opposed to, well, the corners in the middle.
That's one of the reasons that I turn up early, is just simply because if I turn up late and the table's already set and there's no room for the crane, then I'm kind of snookered. So I kind of, if I get there early, I can work with everybody, make sure we rearrange stuff if needs be. And then you can do the best job that, I can do the best job I possibly can for the couple. So. So my final question, which is one that I ask everybody, is if I could give you the skills and the tools and the abilities to do any other job within the wedding industry, what would you do? You're not allowed to choose what you already do, so you have to choose something else.
I think I'd be the photographer.
Oh, right.
Only because I think what they create and the images they capture can have so much emotion, and they literally take a still frame from your day, and that picture you'll put on the wall. I think it just, to me, I think some people don't want photography on their wedding. I think it's so important because after the wedding day, the only thing you have left to remember that day is, apart from obviously what you've got, what you can remember from the day, is the photos and the videos.
Yeah.
And sometimes there might be moments as a couple that you don't get to see what was going on in the canapes, and you'd planned so much going on, but the photographer will capture that for you.
Yeah.
Say with a videographer and a cinematographer, they will capture that. But for a photographer, however, those images end up in your home. Yeah. And you literally do create lasting memories for them. So.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think I'd go with a photographer on that one.
Well, listen, we've got to the end, I think. So thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you for having me.
And I shall look forward to getting some space at the next venue that you're
at. Of course,
anytime.
anytime.
And not having to fight to get out of there, move that table over there. So no, seriously though, thank you very much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
So there we go. That was my chat with Sharon, and very enjoyable it was too. And I always enjoy working with her, mostly because she's not hoity-toity. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, to all those other wedding planners, I hope you made notes about how to deal with suppliers. Thank you very much. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Wedding Professionals podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye.